It was supposed to be a quiet weekend visit to my lake property. Nothing fancy. Just me, my daughter, and some time away from the noise. But the moment we pulled up to the gated entrance, something felt off. A man in a reflective vest stepped out from the security booth. He looked nervous, hand twitching near his belt, like he expected trouble. Before I could even roll my window down, he barked, "You don't have clearance to enter. Turn around." I calmly replied, "This is my property, Lot 1 to B. I've owned it for 8 years. But he wasn't interested in facts. He didn't check the registry. Didn't ask for ID, just squared his stance and placed a hand on something I never thought I'd see at a neighborhood gate, a gun. He didn't know who was sitting in the passenger seat. My daughter, FBI tactical commander, and this man had just made the worst mistake of his life. The second that man's hand rested on his weapon, my daughter's entire posture shifted. She didn't yell, she didn't panic, she didn't even move much, but I saw it. The calm look on her face vanished, replaced with a steely stillness I've only seen once before, the kind that comes from years of training under extreme pressure, from leading teams into situations where every second counts. She turned to me and said quietly, "Dad, don't move, don't say a word." Then, she slowly opened the car door, both hands raised. The security guard raised his voice, "Ma'am, stay in the vehicle." But she kept calm and steady, her voice like ice. "Put your hand off that firearm, now." The man flinched. He had no idea who he was talking to. My daughter took one slow step forward, both hands still raised in full view. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. It just commanded, "You are unlawfully threatening civilians on private property. Identify yourself now." The guard's hand hovered near his sidearm, but he hesitated. You could see the doubt creeping in. He wasn't trained for this, not for someone who stared danger in the eye without blinking. Then, in one smooth motion, she reached into her jacket and pulled out a slim leather case, flipped it open. FBI Tactical Division Commander rank. His face dropped. All the fake authority, all the attitude gone in an instant. He stuttered, I didn't know. I thought, this was just protocol." She cut him off with 3 words, "You're done talking." For a split second, the guard made the dumbest decision of his life. Whether it was panic, pride, or plain stupidity, he twitched, hand dipping toward his holster like he still had some kind of control. Big mistake. Before I could even process what was happening, my daughter moved, fast, precise, silent. In less than a second, she had him disarmed, face down on the gravel, one arm twisted behind his back, and her knee pressed between his shoulders. He didn't even have time to shout. She leaned down, calm as ever, and said in his ear, "You just drew on a federal officer. You're lucky I'm not pressing your face into concrete." The man whimpered, "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." But ignorance doesn't erase intent, especially when there's a loaded weapon involved. Within moments, 2 more so-called HOA security trucks pulled up, lights flashing, gravel flying. Out jumped 2 more men in matching vests, hands on their hips, like they were about to back up their buddy, until they saw the scene. Their fellow guard, face down, disarmed, being detained by a woman half his size, calmly pinning him like it was routine. They hesitated. My daughter stood up slowly, badge still visible around her neck. "You might want to think twice before drawing your weapons," she warned. "This man just attempted to use deadly force on federal property. That makes this my jurisdiction now." One of them spoke up nervously, "Ma'am, we were just called in for a trespassing situation." She didn't even let him finish. "This isn't trespassing, this is property ownership, and you're all about to be part of an official report." Suddenly, they didn't look so tough. Just when things looked like they couldn't get more ridiculous, a black SUV rolled up. Out stepped a man in a golf shirt, clipboard in hand, and sunglasses that screamed fake authority. The HOA president. He strolled up like he was the sheriff of the whole county. What's going on here? Why is my security team being detained? My daughter didn't flinch. She turned to him slowly and asked, "Are you in charge of these men?" He scoffed. "They work under me." "Yes. Now I suggest you." She held up her badge. "Again, FBI Tactical Commander. And you're standing on federal property during an active investigation involving an attempted armed assault." The smug look on his face melted like ice in the sun. He took a half step back, suddenly unsure of everything. "Wait, what kind of assault?" She locked eyes with him. "The kind that lands people like you in court." The HOA president's face went pale. He looked at the guards still on the ground, then at my daughter, then at me. "Let's not escalate this further," he said, his voice suddenly calm, like he was trying to negotiate his way out of a fire. But my daughter wasn't buying the act. "You already escalated it," she replied. "You authorized untrained men to patrol with loaded weapons on land that doesn't belong to your association." He tried to wave it off. "There's been confusion with the property lines," she cut him off. "That's a civil matter. Pulling a gun is criminal, and you've crossed into federal jurisdiction." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out, and then she hit him with the line that made his knees almost buckle. "You're not just looking at fines. You're looking at federal charges for allowing this." The other two guards, they were already backing away. Just as the tension reached its peak, we heard another engine in the distance. This one sounded different, deeper, heavier. A county sheriff's cruiser pulled up fast, lights on but no siren. The moment the door opened and the sheriff stepped out, everything changed. He looked around, spotted my daughter, still standing calm and professional, and immediately raised his hand in a salute. "Commander," he said, "didn't expect to see you out here." That's when the entire HOA crew finally understood. They were in way over their heads. The president's mouth dropped open. "You know her?" The sheriff glanced at him, unimpressed. "That woman trains half my tactical unit, and you're lucky she didn't have to use force beyond what she already did." The president stumbled over his words. This is just a misunderstanding." The sheriff looked him dead in the eye. "No, this is an embarrassment." The sheriff walked over to the disarmed security guard, still on the ground. "Name." The guard mumbled something. The sheriff didn't care. He looked at my daughter and asked, "Do you want to press charges?" She answered without emotion, "Not yet. But I want his weapon logged, and I want his certification records pulled." The sheriff nodded, then ordered his deputy, "Bag the weapon. Detain him for questioning. Get the HOAS security logs, too." The guard was speechless. Just 30 minutes ago, he was acting like a cop. Now he was being cuffed like a criminal, and he knew it. The other two guards stood frozen, trying to look invisible. Meanwhile, the HOA president tried again to recover. "There's really no need for all this. We can resolve this internally," the sheriff snapped at him. "You don't get to resolve armed assault internally. You've just triggered a full investigation." And then the SUV that brought the president. While the security guard was being cuffed and his weapon sealed into an evidence bag, the sheriff turned to one of his deputies. "Get the HOAS incident reports. I want every complaint involving security in the last 6 months." The president blurted out, "You can't just take our records without a warrant." My daughter turned toward him and said flatly, "Actually, yes, we can. Your guards just crossed from civil enforcement into criminal misconduct, which means your entire operation is now part of an open case." The president's face turned beet red. "This is harassment. We're just volunteers trying to maintain the community." The sheriff didn't let him finish. He gave a loaded firearm to an untrained volunteer and told him to enforce property lines with threats. The clipboard the president had been holding so confidently, it was shaking in his hands now. He suddenly looked less like a leader and more like someone realizing his entire HOA might be liable for a long list of violations. While the sheriff's deputies began collecting records and snapping photos, I finally stepped forward. Until now, I'd stayed quiet, watching my daughter handle the situation like a seasoned pro. But enough was enough. I looked directly at the HOA president and said, "Let me make this perfectly clear. Lot 1-B, the one your guard tried to block me from entering, has been in my name for 8 years. I pay taxes. I've filed permits. I've got every legal document ready to go." I pulled out the folder from my glove box and handed it to the sheriff, who skimmed the papers and nodded. "All checks out." I turned back to the president. "So if your crew ever sets foot on my property again, it won't just be a criminal case. It'll be civil, too. And I promise, I'll own half this HOA when I'm done." The man's lips tightened, but he didn't say a word. He knew. He was beat. The sheriff handed the documents back, then turned to my daughter. "Commander, anything else you need from us on site?" She nodded slowly. "One more thing." She walked up to the 2 remaining guards, the ones who'd backed away earlier, now pretending to be invisible. Her tone stayed calm, but carried unmistakable weight. "If either of you brandishes a weapon again on property that isn't yours, without training, without a license, without backup, it won't be a takedown. It'll be federal weapons charges. And that doesn't end with a slap on the wrist." One of them stammered. "We didn't know. We were just told to enforce." She cut him off, but not harshly. "Then start asking questions before you follow orders next time." She turned her back on them, done talking. And just like that, the tactical commander, who had dismantled their entire charade, was walking away. Calm, collected, and completely in control. As we began heading back toward our car, another vehicle arrived. A silver sedan with 2 frantic-looking people inside. Turns out, 2 members of the HOA board. They must have heard what happened over their little radio channel, and they looked like they had just walked into a board meeting on fire. One of them, a woman in a blazer and flip-flops, rushed up to the sheriff. "We weren't informed of any weapons being authorized. That was never discussed in board meetings." The sheriff raised an eyebrow. "So you're saying the HOA president acted unilaterally?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes, and we'll be calling for an emergency vote." "This is a nightmare." My daughter exchanged a look with me. She didn't have to say it out loud. Their little power game just blew up in their faces. The board was crumbling, and they were turning on each other faster than we could buckle our seatbelts. Within minutes, word had spread through the entire neighborhood. Phones were out. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains. Someone even flew a drone over the scene. And the one smug HOA president, he stood there, sweating, surrounded by law enforcement, board members arguing behind him, and one very empty SUV already towed off HOA property. A deputy handed him a document. "You're being issued a notice of investigation. You'll be contacted by the district attorney's office." The man looked hollow now, like he'd aged 10 years in an hour. One board member muttered, loud enough for us to hear, "We're done. He just cost us everything." My daughter, now back in the car beside me, looked out the window one last time. All that power, all that ego, gone the second someone with real authority showed up. And she was right. The whole HOA's tough act had crumbled under the weight of truth, law, and a badge that couldn't be bullied. As we drove through the now open gate and onto our property, the tension finally started to melt. The breeze from the lake was calm. The trees swayed gently. Birds chirped like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. The fake authority, exposed. The real power, quiet, disciplined, and unshakable, sitting right in the passenger seat. I looked over at my daughter. She wasn't gloating. She wasn't angry. Just thoughtful, like she'd seen this story play out before, too many times. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "I'm just glad it ended without anyone getting hurt." That was her, trained for war, but always hoping for peace. And me, I'd never been prouder. Not just because she was FBI, not because she outmaneuvered an entire corrupt HOA, but because she stayed calm when cowards pulled weapons. Because she turned chaos into order. Because she stood for what was right. And now, our lake property was finally safe, and no HOA guard would ever dare step foot on it again.